Hi. In this week's Parashat, we have an interesting situation. At the very end, after all is said and done, we're told about this idea of a voluntary monetary offering to the Mishkan. Rav Shimshon Rafael Hirsch points out that its positioning at the very end of Sefer Vayikra is very telling. For what have we just been through? Well, for all intents and purposes, it's a bit strange. I can give money to the Mishkan and somehow this is a good thing. God needs my money? In other religions, we often find that a person can pay his way to forgiveness, pay his way to righteousness. In Judaism, this isn't the case, and Rav Hirsch points out by its positioning in this week's parasha, we learn a valuable lesson. Only after God has told us how he gets closer to us, how we draw closer to him, does this institution of a voluntary offering come up. God first tells us that if you keep my chukim, you keep my mishpatim, you act with justice, you act with morality, that will bring me closer to you. Then, afterwards, he tells us that if a person wishes to, he can give a voluntary monetary offering as a form of self-expression. A form by an individual wanting to express a certain closeness, a certain something. There is room for this, but it is by no means the primary force behind our relationship with God. So to recap, the idea of a voluntary monetary offering does come up in Judaism, but it comes up in a very certain position. It comes up at the very end, to know that it is by no means the important motivator that should be drawing us closer to God. First, we are told how we go close to God, through justice and through morality, through actions, through acts of loving kindness, and through following God's ways, but by no means is it money. But there is a place for this. Money comes at the end. There is room for this, but we have to know and recognize its position and thereby its importance. Thank you very much for listening and have a wonderful Shabbos.